Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Redacted Tapes with Chewy, where we explore the paranormal, the unexplained, and the forbidden. Before the pyramids, before religion, before recorded history itself, there were stories carved into ancient stone tablets by Sumerians, a civilization so advanced some believed they were given knowledge from beings not from this world. They called them the Anunnaki. Were they simply gods from mythology? Or these ancient texts be describing something far more disturbing, visitors from another planet who came to Earth thousands of years ago? Tonight we dive into the forbidden history, lost civilizations, ancient aliens, and the question that refuses to die. What if humanity was never alone? Welcome to the Redacted Tapes. The Anunnaki originally come from ancient Mesopotamia mythology, especially the civilizations of the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians. In the oldest text, they were described as powerful deities connected to heaven, earth, fate, and civilization. This word Anunnaki roughly means those of royal blood or offspring of Anu. Anu was considered the sky god and one of the highest deities in the Sumerian belief. The real historical texts describe the Anunnaki as gods who rule different parts of existence, judges of humanity in the underworld, beings connected to creation stories and kingship. Supernatural figures worshipped by ancient people. They appear in cuneiform tablets written thousands of years ago. Important figures often connected to the Anunnaki include Enki, associated with wisdom, water, and creation, and Enlil, associated with storms and authority, and Anu, the ruler of the heavens. These Anunnaki were actually extraterrestrials. They came from a hiding planet called Nibiru. They genetically modified humans. Humans were created to mine gold for them. According to these theories, the Anunnaki arrived thousands of years ago. Ancient civilizations got advanced knowledge from them. Myths about gods were really stories about aliens.
The Elohim are the Anunnaki, and it is their sons born on earth who married the daughters of Adam. Those who from heaven to earth came, they are Elohim in the Bible.
The prophet Daniel in the Old Testament says that he was given a vision by God where he saw the earth, and it was in a destruction and a desolation of the world, in a vision taking him back to an ancient time.
In Hebrew, the verse says Bereshit, which is translated in the beginning. Elohim, God, created the heaven and the earth. How could it be that the story of creation starts with the second letter of the alphabet and not with the first letter, the alpha? If you add the aleph, which may have dropped somewhere along the writings, etc., of the Bible, it becomes not Bereshit, Av Reshit, the father of beginning, created Elohim, the heaven and the earth.
The story begins over 6,000 years ago in the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. This is where the Sumer emerged, one of the first known civilizations in human history. The Sumerians were primitive tribes. They built massive cities, developed one of the first writing systems known as cuneiform, created complex laws, studied astronomy, and constructed towering temples called ziggurats that reached towards the heavens. Cities like Uruk, Eridu became centers of trade, religion, and power. And this is what fascinates historians and conspiracy theories alike. How did one of the earliest civilizations suddenly appear with advanced mathematics, agriculture, architecture, and knowledge of the stars? To the Sumerians, the answer was simple. Their knowledge came from the gods. Ancient tablets speak of powerful beings who descended from the heavens, beings known as the Anunnaki. The Sumerians believed these entities shaped kingship, civilization, and possibly humanity itself. But were these stories symbolic, myths, or records of something ancient people struggled to understand? Because thousands of years later, people are still trying to decode what the Sumerians may have been trying to tell us. The Anunnaki gods. According to ancient Sumerian texts, the world was ruled by powerful divine beings known as the Anunnaki. These were not ordinary gods. The Sumerians described them as beings connected to the heavens, creation, fate, and the rise of civilization. They were feared, worshipped, and believed to control humanity's destiny. At the center of these stories was Anu, the supreme god of the heavens, ruler of the sky and father of the Anunnaki. Then came two of the most important mysterious figures, Enlil, the god of storms, authority, and power. Ancient texts describe him as strict, commanding, and sometimes ruthless. Many stories portray Enlil as the force who wanted to control over humanity. And then there was Enki. Enki was different. Known as the god of wisdom, water, knowledge, and creation, Enki is often portrayed as humanity protector, the one who secretly helped mankind survive. Some ancient stories even claim Enki warned humanity about the coming flood that would wipe out the entire civilization. Sound familiar? Because thousands of years later, flood stories appeared again in the villages around the world, including the story of Noah's Ark. But this was where the mystery deepens. Modern theories believe these gods may have not been symbolic at all. They argue the Anunnaki were actually advanced beings, mistaken for gods by ancient humans. Were the Sumerians simply telling myths to explain the worlds around them? Or were they recording encounters with something beyond human understanding? And if these beings truly existed, why do similar stories appear across civilizations, separated by oceans thousands of years? Enki versus Enlil. Among the stories surrounding the Anunnaki, none are more important or more mysterious than the conflict between Enki and Enlil. Two powerful beings, two completely different visions for humanity. According to ancient Mesopotamia myths, Enlil represented authority, order, and control. He was seen as the ruler who believed humans were becoming too loud, too chaotic, and too difficult to manage. Some stories describe Enlil as cold and unforgiving, even supporting the destruction of humanity through a massive flood. But Enki stood on the opposite side. Enki was associated with wisdom, creation, hidden knowledge, and compassion towards mankind. In many versions of ancient flood stories, Enki secretly warned humans to build a vessel before the disaster begins, a story that many compare to the Noah's Ark in the modern-day Bible. To some researchers, this created the image of Enlil as the authorian ruler, and Enki was the rebel who wanted humanity to survive and evolve. And this is where the modern conspiracy theories explode. Some believe Enlil wanted humans obedient and controlled, while Enki wanted humans enlightened with knowledge and free will. Others compare the story to later religious themes, like law versus freedom, control versus enlightenment, obedience versus forbidden knowledge. Some even connect Enki to the idea and the bringer of the knowledge, seen in later myths and religions, but historians caution that these interpretations are modern theories layered onto ancient myths. The original Sumerian texts are complex, symbolic, and often fragmented. Still, the idea of two godlike beings fighting over humanity's future continues to fascinate people thousands of years later. Because if the oldest civilization on Earth believed humanity was caught in a struggle between high powers, what does it say about us today? Long before the Bible stories of Noah's Ark was written, ancient civilizations were already telling stories about catastrophic floods that nearly wiped out humanity, and some of the oldest versions come directly from Sumer. In ancient Mesopotamian myths, the gods decide humanity has become too corrupt, too noisy, too uncontrollable. The solution? A massive flood meant to erase civilization, but one god refused to let humanity disappear. In several versions of the story, Enki secretly warned humans about the coming destruction and tells them to build a giant boat to survive. One of the most famous flood survivors is Utnapishtim from the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest stories ever discovered. And this is where things get eerie. The similarities between these ancient flood myths and Noah's Ark are almost impossible to ignore. A divine warning, a chosen warrior, a massive boat, animals preserved, a world-destroying flood, humanity's beginning again afterwards. But the flood stories don't stop there. Similar legends appear all across the world. Ancient Greece, the Hindu traditions, even Native Americans, Chinese mythology, and Mesoamerican civilizations. Different cultures separated by oceans, all describing a great flood. So the question becomes, were these simply symbolic myths passed between civilizations? Or could ancient people across the world have been remembering a real catastrophic event, lost to history? Some researchers point to the end of the last ice age, where rising sea levels may have flooded massive regions of Earth. Others believe the stories were spiritual metaphors about destruction and rebirth. And conspiracy theorists take it even further, claiming the flood was not only at all, but deliberately reset, carried out by higher beings. Whatever the truth is, the flood myth remains one of humanity's oldest and most universal stories. Zecharia Sitchin was a writer and researcher best known for popularizing the idea of ancient civilizations that were influenced by extraterrestrials. Born in 1920, Sitchin studied economics and journalism, but became fascinated with the ancient Mesopotamian culture, especially the Sumerians and their cuneiform tablets. In 1976, he released his most famous book, The 12th Planet. In that book, Sitchin claimed ancient Sumerian texts revealed the existence of a hidden planet called Nibiru, home of the Anunnaki. Modern fascination with the Anunnaki exploded. In the 1970s, Sitchin published a series of books claiming that the ancient Sumerian tablets reveal the hidden history of humanity, a story far different from what historians teach. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki were not mythological gods, they were extraterrestrials. He claimed these beings came from a distant planet called Nibiru, sometimes described as the mysterious 12th planet, with a massive orbit that occasionally passes through our solar system.
And then it turned out that the Sumerians said there's this planet and that planet and so on, and there's one more planet, the 12th member of the solar system, which they called Nibiru, meaning planet of the crossing, and its symbol was the cross. So even the symbol of the cross is not an invention from 2,000 years ago, but from 6,000 years ago.
And according to his theory, the Anunnaki came to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, searching for one thing: gold. Sitchin claimed the Anunnaki needed gold to repair their planet's atmosphere. To mine it, they allegedly created humanity through the genetics engineering, mixing their DNA with early human ancestors to produce a worker species. In this version, humans were designed to serve. Ancient kings were connected to the Anunnaki. Early civilizations were guided by alien knowledge. Myths about gods descending from the sky were actually historical events. Sitchin also argued that many ancient monuments, from the pyramids to the massive stone structures around the world, may have been influenced by advanced beings. And for millions of people, these ideas changed the way they looked at history forever. But there's one major controversy. Most mainstream historians, archaeologists, language experts strongly reject Sitchin's interpretations. Critics argue his translation of Sumerian texts were inaccurate. Nibiru doesn't appear in the way he described. There's no scientific evidence for ancient aliens, genetic engineering. Many claims were speculative rather than historical. Even so, the theories spread across documentaries, books, internet forums, shows like Ancient Aliens, because the idea is powerful. What if ancient myths were not symbolic stories, but distorted memories of encounters with something not human? And if humanity was created by higher beings, who or what created them? Among all the mysteries connected to the Anunnaki, the controversial one is the legend of Nibiru, often called Planet X. Nibiru is described in modern conspiracy theories as a hidden planet with a massive orbit far beyond the known planets of our solar system.
A long time ago, we arrived on this planet after a very long journey. Our ship was heavily damaged. But we were in luck. We had found a planet with air and water and life.
The theory became famous to Zechariah Sitchin, who claimed ancient Sumerian texts spoke about a wandering world inhabited by the Anunnaki. According to Sitchin, Nibiru takes thousands of years to orbit. The Anunnaki traveled from Nibiru to Earth in search of resources like gold. Humanity may have been genetically engineered. Some believers claim ancient civilizations tracked Nibiru long before modern astronomy existed. Others say governments secretly know about the planet but hide the information to prevent panic. And over the years, the theory evolved into predictions of global catastrophes, pole shifts, earthquakes, mass extinctions, the end of civilization. Especially around 2012, internet rumors exploded with claims that Nibiru was approaching Earth. Probably the most controversial part is the idea that humanity itself may have been engineered. According to the theory of Zechariah, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth thousands of years ago. But there was a problem. Labor was too difficult to mine the gold. So according to these theories, the Anunnaki created humans to work them. The claim is that they genetically altered humanoids by combining primitive human DNA with their own advanced genetics, creating a new species, intelligent enough to follow commands and perform labor. Supporters of the theory point out to one major mystery in human evolution. Why did humans' intelligence appear to develop so rapidly compared to earlier ancestors?
So the really interesting question is what happened to civilization and society that allowed us in about 1600 to suddenly start basically doing science, which has led to the modern world. Because if you think about it, without being dismissive to everyone who lived before that, we didn't make much progress, right?
They argue that the sudden leap in language, tool making, agriculture, and civilization may have been influenced by outside intervention. Some conspiracy theorists even connect the idea of ancient religion stories, humans created in the image of gods, forbidden knowledge given to mankind, divine beings descending from the heavens, ancient bloodlines tied to rulers and kings. In these theories, the Anunnaki are not just creators, they are the architects of civilization itself, but mainstream science strongly rejects these claims. Biologists, anthropologists explain humans' evolution through natural processes over millions of years. There is no accepted scientific evidence showing extraterrestrial genetic engineering in the human DNA. Still, the theory remains popular because it touches one of humanity's oldest questions. Where do we come from? And maybe an even more disturbing question. If humanity was created for a purpose, what was that purpose really? A few conspiracy theories divide people more than the story of the Anunnaki. One side are believers, people convinced ancient myths contained hidden truths about humanity's origins.
Now, you want to go into the ancient wisdom and the ancient tablets. The tablets talk about the fact that advanced civilizations had already been built outside of this planet. They went to war with each other in a sector of the sky called the Pleiadian star cluster.
On the other side are skeptics, historians, scientists, archaeologists, and researchers who argue the entire theory was built on misunderstandings and speculations.
Well, I know the Anunnaki story that is being portrayed out there by people like Zecharia Sitchin and Billy Carson is complete nonsense. And how do I know that? Because I know the original story, the actual story from the Sumerian tablets. The Anunnakis were not aliens. They did not come down from heaven to earth in fiery rockets, and there was none of that. They were settlers that came in over the Taurus Mountains from Eurasia, from Europe.
Believers point to several myths. Ancient civilizations appearing suddenly, massive structures built with incredible precision, myths about gods descending from the sky, advanced astronomical knowledge in ancient cultures, flood stories shared across the world. To them, these are clues that humanity may have encountered advanced beings in the distant past. Many supporters of Zecharia Sitchin believe ancient people described extraterrestrials the only way they could, as gods. Some even argue governments and institutions suppress information about humans' true origins. But skeptics push back against these claims. Historians argue that ancient myths were symbolic religious stories. Civilizations evolved gradually over time. Human engineering and intelligence explain ancient architecture. Sumerian texts do not literally describe aliens. Language experts also criticize Sitchin's translations, saying many interpretations of cuneiform tablets were inaccurate or taken out of context. Scientists point out there is no verified evidence of alien technology in the ancient ruins, no proof of extraterrestrial DNA in humans, no confirmed existence of Nibiru. To skeptics, the Anunnaki theory reflects modern fascination with aliens more than an ancient reality. But believers counter with one powerful argument. What if ancient people were trying to describe advanced technology they couldn't understand? Because their civilization thousands of years ago witnessed beings with advanced machines, knowledge, or power, wouldn't they really call them gods? And that question is why the debate never truly dies. Some see mythology, others see hidden history. And somewhere between belief and skepticism, the mystery of the Anunnaki continues. Maybe the truth about the Anunnaki will never be fully known. Maybe there were simply ancient gods created through myth and imagination. Or maybe the oldest civilization on Earth was trying to preserve memories of something humanity was never meant to forget. From the ruins of Sumer to the stories of forbidden knowledge, the great floods, and beings descending from the heavens, one thing is certain. These mysteries have survived for thousands of years for a reason. And whether you believe in the Anunnaki, were myths, metaphors, or something more real, the questions they leave behind are impossible to ignore. Who are we really? Where did civilization truly begin? And if humanity was guided in the past, could these forces still be watching us today? This has been Redacted Tapes. Stay curious, stay questioning, and remember, some truths were buried for a reason. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, share the podcast, and let us know what topic you want us to dive into next. Thank you, everybody. This was the Redacted Tapes with Chewy, where we explore the paranormal, the unexplained, and the forbidden.